we connecting? All right, there it is. What's up, movie addicts? Welcome to Midnight Movie Talk with Johnny K on the Movie Addiction Podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Got a couple of stories to talk about tonight. I think we're hitting it right at midnight. And this will be available to listen to later and all that stuff. But usually, I think I'm going to start trying to do them at 11. That'll work better. I shouldn't be as tired because I have actual jobs and shit I have to do. But anyways, tonight on the Midnight Movie Talk, we've got news. Alec Baldwin, which a few days late on that. I'm sure everybody already saw it and heard about it. Jussie Smollett has taken the stand in his trial. Pretty ballsy move, but we don't get to see any of it, but it's been recorded, and so we're going to talk about that. And then also, the people of Casper, Wyoming are very unwelcoming to the idea of their movie theater joining a trend, a nationwide trend that's been going on for several years now. So we'll get into it. We'll start with the Alec Baldwin thing, because that's the headline. That's how I plan on hopefully getting people to click on the video and watch it or listen to the podcast. It has been, I'm not sure, probably about a month or so since Alec Baldwin crossed state lines and shot a woman. And he's not even claiming self-defense. It was basically he just was being reckless, and he shot a woman on the set of a film in New Mexico, crossing state lines, because I'm pretty sure he doesn't live there. I think the gun was there, though, so maybe he didn't cross state lines with the gun. I guess the jury's still out on that. We'll see. Maybe if he had crossed state lines, we would have heard about it, because that seems like that's a pretty big deal nowadays, crossing state lines. If you plan on shooting somebody, definitely don't cross state lines beforehand. Anyways, I'll read a quick little article based on the interview that he gave, and then I'll give my thoughts on the interview. And then also, this little piece is about something that followed the interview. This is from Max Goldbart at Deadline. Alec Baldwin has deleted his main Twitter account just days after his first sit-down interview about the Rust tragedy with ABC's George Stephanopoulos. Overnight, the A-lister's verified at Alec Baldwin account has been taken off of Twitter and is listed as this account does not exist. His other at Alec Baldwin _ account remains active, although hasn't been used for more than a year, as does his wife Hilaria Baldwin's Instagram. Baldwin had been tweeting from Alec Baldwin more as of late, and the account was used to post his first statement on the tragedy on October 21st. Baldwin fired the shot that fatally wounded Rust cinematographer Helena Hutchins, who died later in a hospital. Baldwin has deleted at Alec Baldwin multiple times, including during the controversy over wife Hilaria Baldwin's Spanish heritage, the foreign face incident, which is absolutely hilarious. His reps did not immediately respond to Deadline's request for comment. Oh, look, we got some spammers in there. Bots, hackers, whatever you are. The move comes just 3 days after Baldwin's much-trailed first sit-down interview about the tragedy with Good Morning America's Stephanopoulos. During the emotional interview, Baldwin made the shock claim that he did not pull the trigger of the gun that killed Hutchins, and said he had no idea how a live bullet made its way onto the set. He gave Stephanopoulos a detailed rundown of the timeline of events and said it's highly unlikely he'll be criminally charged over what took place. And that's very cocky. And obviously, I've talked about this tragedy before. It's been a big topic for a lot of people. And, sometimes this does unfortunately happen quite a bit, where people do end up giving their lives in the pursuit of making entertainment. This time it was in the pursuit of making an Alec Baldwin movie, so not entirely the same thing. But if the movie does get finished eventually and made, people are going to go see it for sure, because when was the last time anybody gave a shit about about Alec Baldwin besides Boss Baby, I think? Besides the last Alec Baldwin movie I can think of, I can't, besides Boss Baby. Which, based on this interview, if they do a live action, they won't be able to cast him because he's a terrible fake crier. But although after the shooting, that picture of him on set, I thought, okay, that actually looks pretty good. But that was just a picture. So I guess we'll get into this interview. That went out. I'll start by saying that I don't understand why he did this interview. Obviously, he's pretty confident that he's not going to get criminally charged. So that's probably why. But the best thing to do in this case would just be to leave it alone, I think. But it's Alec Baldwin, and I think he likes the attention that he's getting from this. And the only reason that this is this big of a story is because it was Alec Baldwin. He's a famous guy for his, public temper tantrums, his stupid stances on gun rights, which brings out the irony in this whole situation. Him being involved is the only thing that makes this a big story. I was thinking and this kind of stuff does happen all the time. I made the joke, but it's serious. Expendables, some people died making the Expendables movies. I think a woman died on Deadpool 2. Or a man, I can't remember, a stunt person. The only other time that it has been this publicized was maybe when Dylan O'Brien almost died on the set of one of the Maze Runner movies, and that's because he's famous. Not as famous as Alec Baldwin, but if there's a celebrity involved, it automatically makes it the top story. And everybody obviously was referencing Bruce Lee. But I mean, that Allman Brothers movie, that lady died because they were trespassing on the train tracks. They didn't have it scheduled or anything to film there, and they were filming, and a train came and hit something that flew into this lady and killed her. And I think the director or one of the producers, I can't remember, maybe more than one person, but somebody ended up going to jail for like a year over that. Hopefully we see the same outcome here. And I've talked about this before, so I won't go into it so much. That part of it. I'll talk about the interview, though. He looks like shit, which is probably a good thing. They probably did that on purpose. They want him to look like shit, want him to look like he's been grieving and this and that. One thing I did notice, though, was I don't know if they had him in some makeup or if it's just his natural. He looks like shit. He looked more like Trump in this interview than he did in any of the SNL things. So maybe they overdid that there because they actually had quite a bit of things to work with. Or they just had to get him to commit a murder beforehand and put him in some emotional distress. And then maybe that would have brought out the appearance a little more. He did talk in the interview. There was a couple interesting things. One thing he said was he didn't know for like 45 minutes or an hour after it happened that she had been shot and killed. He thought that she fainted, right at the same time that the blast went off from the gun. So that's more than likely BS. The big takeaway, though, is that he didn't pull the trigger. That was the main thing that he said. And I've seen some videos of some gun experts explaining that, and so it seems like more than likely what happened was he already had the trigger pulled, and so when he slid the hammer back, the round just automatically went off. And I've talked about this, like I said, so obviously a lot of people at fault here, but it doesn't excuse him because he was the one holding the weapon. So he was being extremely irresponsible with it, and so he's not excused from that no matter who is technically at fault here. If there's other people, he's still at fault the most because he was the last point of contact with the gun. We all know guns don't just fire themselves, even though that's what he's trying to claim right here. He also said that he wants to point out that he's not the victim. This isn't about him. But then explains how he is the victim, how this is the worst thing that ever happened to him. Worse than his people discovering that his wife was a fake foreigner. I found that a little interesting for him. I thought that would have been a much bigger hit to his ego, finding out that he's not really married to a foreigner, or whatever that scandal was. I don't remember, but I do remember it was hilarious. I will say, I did not buy his tears in this. Crying has been something scrutinized a lot lately. There's been a lot of crying incidents in the news, and people attack the different ones based on authenticity. And I tell you, we know that Alec Baldwin's not a good actor. He should know he's not a good actor, so he should know better than going on video and trying to fake emotion. Because like I said, he looked like shit, but I didn't get that from everything he said. And it definitely wasn't reflecting on his tone and just the different phrases he was choosing to use. This seemed like a person trying to cover their ass right away and get out in front of something and also bring more attention on themselves. That was the other thing, was this interview, they put out like a trailer for it the day before, and it looked like the trailer for, I don't know, like a Planet of the Apes movie or like a Transformers movie or something. So that's kind of fucked up. Hopefully, if they got any, they give all the ad money to the victim here. But yeah, he said he didn't know for like 45 minutes that she had been shot. But then also, at least according to this write-up of it, and I think I'd heard this a couple other places, she didn't die on scene. She died at the hospital. So now I'm thinking maybe she could have been saved if they'd have known what happened right away. Plus, there was another guy injured on the set. So maybe it was just the shock of why he didn't know what had happened. But that doesn't seem... I don't buy that. I didn't really buy any of this. And his crying... So the last 3 crying episodes, I think only one of them seems authentic to me. And people are going to say, yeah, of course. They're not surprised. But Randy Moss was crying. I cannot keep this fucking thing from falling. I'm sorry. Randy Moss got, so emotional and brought to tears on national TV because of some emails from like 11 years ago. This is the Gruden situation in the NFL, the coach that had to resign over emails where he made fun of somebody having big lips, which was taken as racist and probably meant to be racist, but also meant in jest, and 10 years ago, and didn't seem to be a problem at the time. But that was so bad for Randy Moss to hear that he cried on TV, and everybody just accepted that and called it noble. Then you obviously had Kyle Rittenhouse, who was reliving an experience in which he was almost killed by a mob, and it brought a PTSD flashback up in court, and nobody believed that online, or at least, the typical people. The people who did believe Randy Moss and thought that was perfectly okay and that was perfectly fine, accused Kyle Rittenhouse of having crocodile tears or just making the whole thing up. And now we have Alec Baldwin, and it was the weirdest fake cry I've ever seen, which might also be why it's not fake. I don't know. I'm on the fence about it. I want to say it was probably fake just based on the whole interview. He didn't come across the way I think he was trying to come across, and I still don't understand why they did this thing from the beginning. I don't know why his agent signed off on this. It doesn't seem like a good idea. But at this point, he's probably not going to get charged, so hopefully he just gets sued. Yeah, the other big story is the trial of Jussie Smollett is ongoing. He took the stand today, and they didn't finish. I think he's being cross-examined. I don't know. I guess we'll read here. And that's going to go into tomorrow. They didn't get it done. And for some reason, this trial's not televised. And that is a huge mistake, because I would have loved to see this. Because we all remember that interview that he gave on Good Morning America or something. Maybe it was the same. It wasn't George Stephanopoulos, but maybe it was the same people. A total bullshit. I punched his ass back. You could tell that it was fake. And so I guarantee you he's pulling the same shit on the stand just based on the transcripts here. And so it'd be interesting to see that in person. It would probably be highly entertaining. I'm not just doing this for clicks also. Technically, he is a movie star. He was in Alien Covenant and The Mighty Ducks. So, Smollett, and this is just from CNN. I just took a chunk of an article because I didn't want to read the whole thing. Smollett on Monday said one of the Nigerians who he called Bon helped him get drugs, including cocaine. He also said he had a sexual relationship that forged between the two at a particular Chicago bathhouse. One night the two were at, Smollett testified that they got a private room and did more drugs and made out. On a separate occasion, Smollett told jurors, Jesus, and him and Bola snuck away from his brother after the three were at a female strip club together. Smollett testified they again got a private room and made out a little bit and masturbated together. And I know that the prosecutors or the defense, I'm not sure who's leading the questioning at this point, there's obviously a reason why they're trying to prove that angle. Because he's claiming that they were involved in a relationship. The Nigerian guy's saying that they weren't. So if they can prove that the Nigerian guy's lying about that, then his whole story becomes a little fuzzy, and maybe that's their plan here. But I don't know why this went to trial. I don't know why they didn't just take a plea, because even if he gets found guilty, I think the max he's going to do is like a couple of years, if I remember right. But anyway, so none of this really has to do with the hoax until we get down to the bottom. He's just accusing the guy of having had a relationship from him, which the guy denied. Smollett testified that he wasn't friendly at all with the brother. Quote, he kind of creeped me out. Every time we were around him, he didn't speak to me. Every time we needed to leave, he made it seem like we needed to sneak off. After a hate letter was sent to Smollett in the mail at the Empire Studio in Chicago on January 22nd, 7 days before the alleged attack, Smollett said, I can't remember the fucking guy's name, Bola, because I can't pronounce it, so I was going to go with the nickname, but said Bola approached him about becoming his personal security guard, something the actor told the juror he had repeatedly asked him. So these guys were on set to be his trainers. I probably should have told the whole story. I guess I'll recap it, but everybody knows it. So following the letter, he began asking him more about the need for security. So Smollett's saying that these guys kind of coked themselves into being trying to have him hired for security, because his whole thing is that the hate crime shit wasn't real, but he actually did get attacked by these guys because there was some kind of dispute over them wanting to be his security, if I'm following this correctly. So he got the threatening letter. After the letter, he asked the Nigerian, who he'd apparently been gay with, asked again if he needed security. Smollett said he described being annoyed at the idea of always having to have security detail around him. Quote, around lunchtime, I would smoke my blunt, drive around the neighborhood of the studios. I don't want to be in someone's car. So that's incriminating. We knew this guy was a piece of shit, and obviously everybody's done that, but to just think that that's just okay to say, to admit to on the stand, like that's going to help with your character assessment from the jury and from the public. You're just going to openly admit to DUI during the day. That's cool. Smollett told the jury that while driving around with the guy, there was never any discussion of planning a staged hate attack. A defense attorney. Okay, so I'm guessing he got called. Obviously, he had to be called by the defense. And so this is his defense attorney questioning. Did you talk to him about some hoax? No. Did you give him the check as payment for some silly hoax? Never. And I could just picture this so well, like I said, based on that interview that he did back in the day, that was just the worst acting that anybody's ever seen. So I don't know if the cross-examination started today or not, but if that's what's going on tomorrow, somebody needs to try to sneak a camera in there because, yeah, I would just love to see this. It's so entertaining to me because everybody knows that he was full of shit. I mean, they introduced video, I think in their opening statements, the prosecution showed the video of him and the guys planning it out the day before. They did like a dry run of the attack. And so just basically a quick rundown of the story was Jussie Smollett, who was an actor, who I hadn't heard of until this, even though I did see Alien Covenant. He wasn't like the star. So I guess he was more known for a TV show that he was on. He was attacked in Chicago. He claimed it was alleged hate crime. He said that the guys said this is MAGA country. It was white guys. He denies ever reporting that they were wearing MAGA hats, but that's what the media said, was that it was some MAGA hat wearing guys. It was 2 o'clock in the morning on like a negative, like below zero night in Chicago, and he he was walking to Subway. He got beat up. He said he fought the attackers off and then realized he was covered in bleach and then found out he had a noose around his neck. And he kept the noose on his neck, went back to his hotel room, and kept it on there waiting for the cops to get there. Then the whole story fell apart because the police actually took it seriously and investigated, looked at cameras, and found out that it was actually two big Nigerian dudes that attacked him. And so that takes out the hate crime angle. And then you also find out that he actually knew these guys. And the original prosecutor dropped the charges, but then the state brought in a special prosecutor, I think, because the police were not okay with him not being charged. I don't exactly know all the details about that, but he's maintained his innocence through this entire time. And this was a big story. I mean, now he's synonymous with this. It's like OJ, you don't think of any of the football achievements, you just think of the murder. Regardless of how this trial goes, that's what you're going to know him from, is this fake hate crime attack. Because even if, which according to what I've read, the trial hasn't been going well, but even if they do get a not guilty verdict, people are not going to believe that he is actually innocent of this. The only reason is maybe a lack of evidence, or they're going to catch these brothers lying about something, and so it's going to destroy their credibility. But a lot of people online, when they announced this trial was starting a few weeks ago, a lot of people were like, yeah, he made it up. Like, there's not very many people on his side as in really believe him, but there is people on his side as in, yeah, he made a mistake, whatever. I thought the penalty was he didn't get to get his bail money back, because that was originally forfeited after the charges were dropped. They said, we're dropping the charges, but we're keeping the bail money. They said that should have been good enough. It was just a stupid thing. There's no reason why he should go to jail for this. And I'm thinking, do these people not remember what happened last year? Like, granted, all those situations had to do with police. But there, except for Ahmaud Arbery, I guess, even though I think one of those guys had been a cop, nonetheless, there was so much hysteria last year and people panicking about this kind of shit that there was cities exploding for absolutely no reason, just based on hysteria and hype that had been created. There's two specific stories that stand out. One of them was in Chicago, where it had originally been reported that like a 12-year-old or younger, a girl had been shot and killed by the police, unarmed and everything like this. And so immediately riots started. They actually had to raise the bridges because people were coming in with U-Haul trucks. And it was crazy. The city got decimated. It had already been decimated basically every night for months after the Floyd thing. But then it started up real bad again based on this incident. But then once the facts came out, which came out right after the riot started, they tried to calm everybody down, but it was too late. Turned out it wasn't a girl, it was a boy, it was a man, where a guy was wanted for homicide. The police were chasing after him. They caught up to him, they were about to arrest him, and he pulled out a gun and blew his head off. And all everybody saw was the cops chasing this black guy, and then next thing you know, he was dead. And so everybody just assumed that the police had shot and killed this guy, and riots started immediately. Minneapolis was already obviously wrecked after the Floyd stuff, but this was still, this brought it all back up again. Police put out the video like a half hour later, which they never do. It was totally unprecedented. They released video, security video of this guy offing himself to try to prove that they didn't do anything here, because people, the fuses were short last year. So something like this would have happened last year. I mean, it really could have escalated. And even in 2019, I mean, had this gone on a little bit longer and they didn't figure it out, if everybody still believed his story, because that was the other thing. You were a bigot if you didn't believe him. If you question his story, that was not good. Even though it had holes in it from the beginning. But if they would have never found out who did it, then, you know, they could have said the police are in on it or they're covering for somebody. Al Sharpton would have been down there, and he's done that before. Al Sharpton has incited riots by implying that police are covering things up and things like that. I don't know the names of the specific incidents, but that's real things that happen. And so this could have escalated. I mean, every single one of these situations that leads to riots could escalate into a situation that becomes violent. I mean, a riot by definition is violent, but I mean, you could create a situation where people end up dying or getting severely hurt, and this could have easily come from this event. So I think it needs to be taken super seriously. And honestly, I think it's all misdemeanor crimes that he's accused of, and I think that's a little unfair. I think they should lock him up for whatever the penalty would have been if the Nigerian dudes would have actually done it or would have actually been found guilty in attacking him. An assault and mugging, robbery, I don't know what the correct terms are, but a sentence like that is probably north of 10 years. If you accuse somebody of something, even though he didn't necessarily accuse them by name, but he said that he was attacked and these were the people that attacked him. I mean, it's basically the same thing as framing somebody or just lying. I always say that if somebody's making up a story about rape or making up a story about domestic abuse and they get caught doing that or they admit to doing that, they should face the max punishment of what their victim would have had to face had he gone down for this. So I think the same rules should apply here. And like I said, it won't. I think most he can do is like a couple of years. I'm not sure on that, but yeah, so let's see, burned through about almost half an hour there, so I want to end on one more. Sorry, I need to fucking get a new mic stand. One more quick story, which I just thought, the story itself is nothing, but the response to it I found really interesting, and so I am just going to be stealing some comments from that story. This is from K2 radio station in Casper, Wyoming. It says Studio City Cinemas, that's the theater chain, in Casper seeks liquor licenses. And this is a cool thing, and my town recently got this, and I was super stoked about it because where I'm at in Casper, Wyoming, apparently they haven't had movie theaters that served alcohol, but this isn't a new or unique thing. They have these in all the bigger cities. I'm pretty sure Alamo Draft Houses, things like that. Even AMC has some luxury type theaters, and Regal's got some that have bars and things like that. And so for me, I see this, and I'm just like, oh, cool. These cities are moving in with the times. Because, there's a lot of places in Wyoming where you can't even buy alcohol at the gas station. Like, you have to, or the grocery store. You have to go to a liquor store, depending on what town you're in. So this, to me, was just, oh, cool. Casper's getting with the times. So I'll scan that article real quick. And it just says, on Tuesday, the Casper City Council... On Tuesday, the Casper City Council will discuss at the regular meeting whether or not to approve a liquor license application made by My Studio Mesa Cinemas. In a memo sent to the city manager's office, it states that Studio Cinemas is seeking a license for their business on Talon Avenue and applying for a restaurant liquor license for their East Side location on East 2nd Street. And because of how the municipal code is structured, Studio Cinemas would not be able to receive two licenses. The only exception made is for malt beverage catering permits or in conjunction with a microbrewery license, none of which apply to the Studio Cinemas. If they wanted to get around it, they could create a new corporation. However, according to the memo, that is not something they plan on doing. Instead, the memo suggests the council could alter the municipal code to allow for Studio Cinemas to own two restaurant liquor licenses, though it is unclear how willing council is to adjusting the municipal code in order to accommodate the theater. Council voted on November 16th to establish December 7th as the date for a public hearing for the liquor license after Studio Cinemas submitted the application on October 26th. Whoop-de-doo, whole lot of nothing. Basic story about, basically small-town politics determining whether or not something like this should be allowed to happen. And if it doesn't happen, bummer, but if it does happen, great. I mean, basically, I read this as, okay, they'll have a couple theaters where you could drink in, or maybe just in general. I know the one that just opened in our town or the one that's about to open, there's going to be a specific, like, 2 theaters that are 21 and up. And, but other theaters, I guess, the ones I've been to in other areas, you can, you just get it at the concession stand, or they have a separate bar next to that. Nonetheless, you don't have to drink. Seems like a good idea. It'd be great if it passes. If not, whatever. That's the way I see it. But the people of Casper did not appreciate that, and I got a lot of entertainment by reading the comments. And so I'm going to share them with you. Again, this is stealing the comments from K2 Radio, the radio station, Casper, Wyoming. Like I said, they were not happy. I think there was like a quarter of the reactions on the post were all like grumpy faces, and there was a couple frowny faces. This comment's from Lynn 08 Gins. I'm saying that wrong, but I don't care because this lady is a bitch. She made her own comment, and then she was all over other people's comments too. And I'm not a big fan of people who comment on Facebook in general, but it does provide me entertainment. But she couldn't just post her thoughts. She had to go and put her thoughts on everybody else's thoughts. Make sure she was heard. She has the first comment I'm going to read. Can we keep it to adult movies at least? Keep G, PG, PG-13, liquor free? Okay, maybe that's kind of reasonable, but then, like I said, she went on and commented on everybody else's post. Super annoying and fun to pick on. And then, okay, and like I said, maybe that's a reasonable request, but I don't really think so, because if I'm at a G movie, it means I'm taking my kids there, and so I'm definitely going to want to have a drink or two for that. Just kidding. We saw Clifford a couple weeks ago. Although that probably would have been better drunk. I didn't need to be. But, I mean, it's kind of a ridiculous request, but at the same time, it's not super unreasonable like some of the other people. Like I said, the real problem with this lady is how she kept interjecting her thoughts. Somebody responded, the bowling alley has alcohol. That was a common theme, too. Restaurants have alcohol. Why would it matter what times they're serving it at, unless people are bothering you, which isn't allowed to happen. So if that happens, you go report it, they'll get kicked out, same kind of thing. She responded, just because another form of entertainment does that does not mean all of them need to. Plenty of people don't drink and would prefer to have a few places that don't serve alcohol. Tough shit, I guess. That was a common theme, too. Here's one from Halala Bacon. No, please, we don't need drunk jerks in dark movie theaters. Show movies in bars instead. Leave us in peace. Malia Benson, good Lord, if you want to have a beer and watch a movie, stay home. Sean Perales, that would cause lots of problems because we all know drunks can't shut up. And there might be a point there, but like I said, go and report them. And this is a good movie theater chain. I know I've been to a lot of their locations, and they would probably give you a refund or a ticket to another show. Frankie Turner, dumbest shit I've ever heard. Daniel Wright, there is no good reason my family should have to put up with obnoxious drunks while we watch a movie. This is ridiculous. Gene Wheeler, why? When I go to a movie, I don't want a drunk sitting next to me. If they can sit for 2 hours without a drink, they need help. If they can't sit for 2 hours without a drink, they need help. No, they can. But this makes the movie more enjoyable. Plus, in a time where movie theaters are losing money, this is just another way that they can add, some profit for them. Because we all want movie theaters to stay around, right? That's the only reason why you're bitching about it. Kelly Bible. Of course, Bible's going to be against this. I don't think the theater deserves a liquor license until they can figure out how to keep people off of their phones during movies. I know I'm not the only person who is sick to death of the inconsiderate people whose phone screens distract from the movie. I vote no in the court of public opinion on this issue. Well, having alcohol serves that issue because you're going to be more focused on solves that issue because you're going to be more focused on drinking the beer, I think. So that is a ridiculous comment. And also, people forget this is in Wyoming. So, no, you're not going to have a drunk sitting next to you because nobody's going to be sitting next to you. I've gone to movies in Wyoming where I'm the only one in the theater. There's 50 open seats and then us. That's not an uncommon thing. Let's see what else we got here. Ruthie Birch, I say no. Too many places already think about the people who have drinking too many places already, period. Think about the people who have drinking problems and already have nothing fun to do. Tough shit. What are they going to stop serving it at bowling alleys and restaurants? Same argument the other people have made. Sonia HG, this is a good comment, but that bitch from the first comment had to interject on that, and it was an even cuntier response than what she posted, so I had to read that too. Sonia says, I love this. When I went to visit my brother, he used to live in Maine, I loved having dinner and a drink with my movie. Yeah, reasonable. Everybody does. But then Lynn had to put her thoughts on there and say, dinner and a movie is different than drinks in a movie theater. Dinner and a movie equals dinner during the movie, wait staff, etc., drinks. At a movie is just people who are ordering alcohol from the snack bar. Two different things. I have no issue with the first. It's likely any other dinner show you attend. I see no reason at all for the second. Well, good thing it's not up to you, because obviously a lot of people are for this. And I will say, like, a third of the comments or reactions were negative, but there was a lot of positive. And, you know, typically if people are in favor of something, they don't comment. It's only the Karens that want to bitch. And anybody who's commenting with an actual opinion on Facebook is a piece of shit anyways. But when they're doing it, like I said, on multiple comments, I'm not surprised that you're not for something awesome like this, because you obviously don't like having a good time if this is how you spend it. Mark Straight, why do we have to ruin everything in Casper with alcohol? If you cannot go to a movie or go downtown to an event without alcohol, then stay the fuck home. Not everyone enjoys dealing with drunks. Alcohol has ruined so many things. And this reminds me of, I used to work in a mall in our town, which is, you know, a relatively small town. And we had a pizza place there that got a liquor license. And that was like a big deal before it happened. Oh, drunk people are going to be wandering around the mall. Oh my gosh, that's going to be the worst thing ever. Because they advertised you could go up and get pizza and watch the football game and have a beer on Sundays or whatever. And so many people in the mall I was working at were freaking out at the time. People around the town thought it was ridiculous. And the place stayed open for a couple years, and there was never any incidents at all. I never even really saw anyone stumbling around drunk. Now, because you also have to realize the movie theater charges like $15 for a popcorn. So a beer, it's going to be like stadium prices if you go to a concert or a football game. Tanya Mason, I spent a lot of money there, but I will stop if they get the license. Ridiculous. Just like the open container attempts downtown. Well, the open container attempts, I'm not familiar with Casper specifically, but I think a lot of that had to do with COVID. Either way, I think that's perfectly fine. Again, if you're being irresponsible, if you end up doing something that's illegal or bad, you can't do that, and so you should be punished, kicked out, maybe even arrested for indecent whatever, depending on what it is. But you have to allow people the opportunity to fuck up. You can't just take away their freedom of drinking in public. Come on, Casper. This is very surprising, because apparently Casper is not the stereotypical Wyomingite, which I found shocking, because I thought people would be all over this. And there was a lot of fuck yes, but also a lot of people very upset about this. Let's see. Oh, yeah, Tamara Mason. I already read that one. But yeah, this is a typical, she's going to boycott. Stop spending my money there. Mary Summers, dear God, just smuggle it in like everyone else. That's a good point, but that's why this is exciting, because we don't have to do that anymore. Who can't sit still for 2 hours without a drink? Again, they can, but if you can have a drink, you might as well. Like, I don't drink anymore, really, unless I'm going out to do something. It's not that if I go out for a couple hours, it's not that I can't go a few hours without having a drink. It's just I'm out, so I might as well have a drink. Going to the movies, the same thing. Oh, I don't usually drink, but since I'm here, sure, I'll have one. It'll make me enjoy this piece of shit movie a little better. Isn't it like a Wyoming outlaw spirit thing? My opinion is no. My career centers around alcohol, and I like having places where it's unlikely to interact with drunk people. Tough shit. It's a refreshing break from the norm. Do what you will, but I'm against it. Nobody cares. Kelly Marsali, that is stupid. Too many kids in the theaters. Please respect the families. Again, if you're going to get sloshed in a movie theater, if that's your goal, then you're not buying it from the concessions counter. You're smuggling in. You're not buying a beer. You're smuggling in like a little bottle of Jack or something and throwing it in your Coke. Angela Donovan Tripp just posts how insane. Martin Hamilton, not so sure that's a good idea. Mary Kay Lee, doesn't Casper have enough problems already? Drunks on the loose on downtown streets and now in the theaters too. Damn, if you need a drink that bad, stay home. Again, these are not the people that are going to be at the theater drinking. If you're worried about them getting sloshed at the theater, this, like I said, this is the person that's going to be there drunk already. TJ Corson, if you can't wait 90 minutes to have a drink, you have a problem. And I think I already read this one, but this is the last. Oh, I think there's two. Richie Birch, I say no. Too many places already. Think about the people who have drinking problems and already have nothing fun to do. Yeah, I think I read that one already. Yeah. So I got entertainment out of those comments and find it hilarious, and also proves that I don't know shit about Casper, Wyoming. It's obviously not like the rest of Wyoming. Bunch of pricks, I think. I couldn't believe these twats when I was reading this because I saw it and I was like, oh, cool, exciting. They're finally getting on with the times because, like I said, a lot of places already have this. That'll do it. Actually ended up going a little over tonight because I had so much fun picking on the people, the assholes of Casper. But yeah, I should be back here tomorrow night, depending on what happens. I might do the concert show instead, so youtube.com/concertaddiction, or back here, depending on what show I'm doing. I don't think I'll do a midnight talk tomorrow. I probably just stream a little earlier in the evening, but I'll post it on the socials, let you guys know. Until then, thanks for watching. Peace.